Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus Arcade video. Today we're going to be taking another look at Virtua Fighter 4, released on the Sega Naomi 2 hardware. And of course, as you can see, as I had showed you in my last video, you have the same characters from Virtua Fighter 3, minus Takarashi, and Lei Fei and Vanessa Lewis have been added in this game. I made it,
You're not a worthy opponent. Come on!
I know I've made reference to this in the past, but, I'll mention this again, but the only character who ever, got exempt from Virtua Fighter games was Takarashi, who was that big sumo wrestler guy that I showed you from Virtua Fighter 3 on the Model 3 hardware. From what I understand, the reason why they excluded him from this game, and of course any of the other Virtua Fighter 4 games, and the first Virtua Fighter 5, is because they didn't know how they'd get his larger size to work with the physics system of this game. And I'm guessing with Virtua Fighter 5 at that point they were thinking they just wanted to make new characters and they didn't want to retread anything. But of course when it came to Virtua Fighter 5 R, he eventually did get re-added to the series. And the character I'm playing here, of course, is Vanessa Lewis, who is the other new character in this game. Now, I have to say, if I have to compare her to Lei Fei, the monk here that I'm currently fighting. Now, while her fighting style can be quite brutal and quite damaging, she just doesn't have the same speed and fluidity that Lei Fei has. He's a lot quicker of a character, and I found, you can look back at the video if you want to see, but I found that I could really chain combos a lot better with him than I could with her. Of course, I'm doing well in the early stages here because I can honestly tell you the first 3 or 4 stages are really, really easy. So unless you don't know what you're doing with the character at all, you're gonna get through them. And that's one thing I always have to say about this game. The stages in Virtua Fighter are always the standout in the series. They always just have that nice pop to them. Everything always just looks really great. I'd say the stages really came into their own as of Virtua Fighter 2, because with Virtua Fighter, the original game, released back in the early 90s, pretty much it was kind of amazing that you had 3D characters, let alone anything in the background. So with that game, all you really had was a 3D character on the platform fighting another 3D character, and then more or less a flat image wrapped around as the background. But then when it came to Virtua Fighter 2 and the Sega Model 2, that's when you really started to have the hardware horsepower to basically push enough polygons to actually display a more complicated background. And now, just like always, I'm not going to make any excuses here, but I really didn't play all that well here, and I lost a few times to, I think it was once to Kage, and then there's once to one other character, and then both Sarah and Akira, I know I lose a few times too, because they're just brutal, because they're level, they're stage 12 and final stage respectively, which of course is stage 13 in this, because unlike the other games where there are only 11 stages on the bonus stage, this game has 13 stages in the bonus stage, which, as I said, is another thing I said I'd mentioned a lot of times. But what I was saying about the stages is, that's one thing you can definitely see about this game, is it has very nice looking stages, considering they're comprised of over 50,000 polygons each. So you can have that more advanced stuff going on in the background, as opposed to earlier fighting games where really it was just kind of cool, as I'd mentioned, that you had a 3D character taking up a 3D space instead of just Ryu and Ken just moving back and forth and just having basic sprites moving.
Ready, go!
And now Jeffrey is always one of those characters to watch out for that, he has a lot of throw moves and just a lot of brutal moves he can do to you. I probably mentioned this in every, game that I ever play of Virtua Fighter, but he's just one of those formidable characters that you really have to watch out for, which, at least in this gameplay, he was early enough that I really didn't have to